Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into one of the most controversial and thought-provoking books of recent times, Vindicating Trump by Dinesh D'Souza. Whether you're a fan of Donald Trump or not, this book is a roller coaster ride through American politics, media bias, and the deep state machinery that D'Souza claims has been working against Trump from day one. Dinesh D'Souza, a best-selling author, filmmaker, and political commentator, is no stranger to controversy. In Vindicating Trump, he takes us on a journey to uncover what he calls a real story behind Trump's presidency, the impeachment trials, and the forces that sought to undermine him. So, grab your headphones, sit back, and let's explore this fascinating book together. By the end of this video, you'll have a clear understanding of D'Souza's arguments, the evidence he presents, and why this book has sparked so much debate. Let's get started. To understand Vindicating Trump, we need to start with the backstory. Dinesh D'Souza sets the stage by revisiting the 2016 presidential election, a race that shocked the world. Donald Trump, a political outsider with no prior experience in government, defeated Hillary Clinton, a seasoned politician and former Secretary of State. But according to D'Souza, Trump's victory wasn't just a political upset. It was a direct threat to the established political order. He argues that the so-called deep state, a network of bureaucrats, intelligence officials, and media elites, saw Trump as an existential threat to their power. D'Souza paints a picture of a coordinated effort to delegitimize Trump's presidency from the very beginning, from the Russia collusion narrative to the impeachment trials. He claims that these were not just political maneuvers, but part of a larger agenda to remove Trump from office. But why would the deep state fear Trump so much? D'Souza suggests it's because Trump represented a break from the status quo. His America First policies, his willingness to challenge globalist agendas, and his direct communication with the American people made him a unique figure in modern politics. In this chapter, D'Souza lays the groundwork for his central argument that Trump's presidency was under constant attack not because of his actions, but because of what he represented, a threat to the entrenched power structures in Washington. One of the most explosive sections of Vindicating Trump is D'Souza's deep dive into the Russia collusion narrative. If you remember, shortly after Trump's inauguration, allegations surfaced that his campaign had colluded with Russia to influence the 2016 election. This led to the appointment of special counsel Robert Mueller and a 2-year investigation that dominated headlines. But D'Souza argues that the entire Russia collusion story was a hoax, a manufactured scandal designed to undermine Trump's presidency. He points to several key pieces of evidence to support this claim. First, he highlights the origins of the investigation, which he traces back to the infamous Steele dossier, a document funded by the Democratic National Committee and Hillary Clinton's campaign. D'Souza argues that the dossier was filled with unverified claims and was used as a pretext to launch the FBI's investigation. Second, he questions the role of the media in perpetuating the collusion narrative. D'Souza accuses mainstream outlets of running with the story without proper scrutiny, creating a cloud of suspicion around Trump that lasted for years. Finally, he points to the findings of the Mueller report, which concluded that there was no evidence of collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia. Despite this, D'Souza argues that the damage had already been done. The narrative had tarnished Trump's reputation and distracted from his policy agenda. In this chapter, D'Souza doesn't just criticize the Russia collusion investigation. He questions the motives behind it. He suggests that it was part of a broader strategy to destabilize Trump's presidency and prevent him from enacting his America First policies. Next, D'Souza turns his attention to the impeachment trials, not once, but twice. Trump made history as the only U.S. president to be impeached twice, and D'Souza argues that both impeachments were politically motivated. The first impeachment, in 2019, centered around allegations that Trump pressured Ukraine to investigate Joe Biden and his son, Hunter Biden, in exchange for military aid. D'Souza claims that this was a misrepresentation of Trump's actions. He argues that Trump was within his rights to investigate potential corruption, especially given the Biden's controversial dealings in Ukraine. The second impeachment in 2021 followed the Capitol riot on January 6. D'Souza acknowledges the seriousness of the event but argues that Trump's speech that day did not incite violence. He suggests that the impeachment was rushed and lacked due process, driven by a desire to punish Trump rather than uphold the Constitution. Throughout this chapter, D'Souza paints a picture of a political system that was determined to remove Trump by any means necessary. He questions the fairness of the impeachment process and suggests that it was used as a tool to undermine a democratically elected president. Perhaps the most controversial claim in Vindicating Trump is D'Souza's assertion that a deep state exists and that it actively worked to sabotage Trump's presidency. But what exactly is a deep state? D'Souza defines it as a network of unelected officials, bureaucrats, and intelligence operatives who wield significant power behind the scenes. He argues that these individuals are not accountable to the public and often act in their own interests, regardless of who is in the White House. According to D'Souza, the deep state saw Trump as a threat to their influence and took extraordinary measures to undermine him. He points to leaks from intelligence agencies, the unmasking of Trump associates, and the weaponization of the FBI and DOJ as evidence of this covert campaign. But D'Souza doesn't just blame the deep state. He also criticizes the media for acting as its accomplice. He argues that mainstream outlets amplified the deep state's narratives, creating a distorted picture of Trump's presidency. In this chapter, D'Souza raises important questions about the balance of power in Washington and the role of unelected officials in shaping public opinion. Whether you agree with his conclusions or not, his arguments are sure to make you think. Despite the constant attacks, D'Souza argues that Trump's presidency was remarkably successful. In this chapter, he highlights some of Trump's key achievements, from economic growth and tax reform to foreign policy victories like the Abraham Accords. D'Souza also defends Trump's controversial style, arguing that his direct communication with the American people was a refreshing change from traditional politics. He suggests that Trump's willingness to challenge the status quo resonated with millions of Americans who felt ignored by the political establishment. So, what do you think? Was Trump the victim of a deep state conspiracy, or is D'Souza's narrative too far-fetched? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more in-depth book summaries and political analyses. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.